Yeah, at some point in the summer, my plan was to eventually go to medical school. And I had this idea that it was going to be, it's going to be difficult. And that, you know, I just couldn't put any woman through that, and I guess I'm just going to be a bachelor the rest of my life. And Julie had a different thought about that.
Totally. Totally different perspective. So I remember we were sitting in his car having that conversation and him, conveying, I'll be a bachelor and I'm going to go to medical school. And I remember thinking, we are not wasting all of this good manhood on bachelorhood. No, that is not happening. You are going to marry me.
Love stories fill us with joy and inspire hope for the future. And a true life romance can remind us that sometimes just one spark is all it takes to change everything.
Since birth, their paths kept crossing, but it wasn't until God whispered to Julie at 2:30 one morning that their love story truly began. Welcome to Unexpected Love Stories. I'm your host, Don Prushkovsky, and today's guests are Julie and Brian Sims with a truly amazing love story. Brian is a board-certified orthopedic surgeon, a senior partner at Amarillo Bone and Joint Clinic, and he also serves on the board of Heartstrings, a film distribution company. And together, he and Julie run Canyon Beef in Canyon, Texas. With a degree in nutrition, Julie is the heart behind Canyon Beef's social media presence. She's known for her gift of hospitality and her great cooking. Together, they also host Relation EQ podcast, sharing wisdom from 40 years of marriage, parenting, and business building. Welcome, you guys. How you doing?
Doing well.
Great.
Thank you.
Excited to be here.
Yeah.
Oh, so glad to have you here on that side of the microphone.
Yes,
Yeah.
this is a real treat for us.
Oh, good. All right. So I always start by saying, let's go back to just before you met, but that's kind of impossible for you guys. So let's go ahead and start your amazing story with where it all began.
Well, I know a lot of stories start with, who saw who first.
Mhm.
And
Uh-huh.
I was definitely the one that saw her first. She had this beautiful, long, curly black hair. And I found I was just really attracted to her. But I remember thinking, what am I? I'm crazy because I'm twice her age. And about that time, the nursery nurse picked me up to change my diaper. And so I was born on May 30th, and Julie was born on June 1st. So, and our mothers both attested to us that back then they stayed in the hospital for 5 days. So we know we were in the nursery at Northwest Texas Hospital in Amarillo, Texas, at the same time.
Yes, so we didn't find that out until much later in our love story. The first time that I laid eyes on Brian was at the local Pizza Hut, and there are two sisters that are very key to our story, and they'll weave in and out, and their names are Liz and April. Remember those names, Liz and April. And so I meet Liz and April at the Pizza Hut, and they happen to be there with their cousin Patrick and this other guy, Brian, the Brian Sims. Now, I had heard about Brian Sims from Liz and April, and this is my first time to ever encounter him. And while we're there, I am thinking, wow, he is so cute and he is so funny. Only problem is he is dating April. That's a problem. Now, me being a respectful woman, I'm going to, not interfere in that relationship. And so that was the first meeting that I had ever recall that I saw him. But he definitely made an impression upon me at the Pizza Hut.
Yeah, and then
So many people now today would go like, Pizza Hut? Wait.
Okay, it's a local pizza diet.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was actually a dine-in restaurant then.
Yeah,
So,
yes.
Yes.
Our story goes back so far, you actually could walk in and order pizza and sit down and eat it. Okay.
yeah.
So
Yes.
that's encounter number two in
Yeah.
our love story.
Yeah, so
Okay.
we were 16 back then, but then at 20, uh, our friend Liz, she said, "Hey, we're playing cards with some friends tonight, um, and would you like to come over?" And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, I'd love to." Didn't know really who else might be there, and when I got there, this Julie girl's there, and I was like, "Oh, yeah, I do remember meeting her once." And I thought she was pretty cute, but she was at Texas Tech, and I always had the idea that because I was planning to go to Texas A&M, and so ri- rivalry there,
Rivalries.
and I thought, oh, she's a party girl, so she's not for me. But it's like, hey, we'll play cards.
So nothing could be further from the truth. I was not a party girl at all, but I did like playing cards with friends. And so I remember, being there. And again, he was cute and funny. But now April is not in the picture. So it's like, so you're saying there's a chance. And so I just was so impressed with him. And so I left that evening, and I'm sure my head was in the clouds. And I went to bed with him on my mind, and I could not get him off my mind. And at exactly 2:30 in the morning, I feel like the Lord wakes me up. And I get out of bed and I get on my knees. And this is what I prayed. Dear God, I would really like to date that Brian Sims someday. No, I would like to marry him. What? What just came out of my mouth? But that was it. That was the prayer. I crawled back in bed, went fast asleep, and I did not see him again for about another year. Totally forgot about the prayer until
Well, I had just turned 21, and I usually would go backpacking when I would have my birthday, and so I just gotten back in town, and our friend Liz, who was actually getting married in a week, and I was going to be an usher in the wedding, and Julie was one of the bridesmaids. And so Liz called me up. She goes, "Hey, Julie is turning 21." And her parents called me. They're having a surprise cookout for her, but they asked us to invite guests because they didn't know what friends to invite. And I said, "Oh, yeah, sure. I'd love to come." So I showed up at the backyard barbecue.
so I'm there and I am suspecting nothing. And I'm not exactly dressed in the way that I would want to see someone that I had prayed about to marry. You're kind of in a old pair of shorts and a t-shirt, and in walks into my parents' backyard, Mr. Cute and Funny. And immediately I'm like, oh my gosh, there he is again. This is time number three. And so my mind, I'm on red alert. Here he comes. And so shortly after walking in, he says, hey, so like we're going to the rehearsal dinner. Can I pick you up? Well, my response was like, this is what I said. Are you kidding? And it was like me trying to protect my heart. Like, are you kidding? Like, don't mess with me. Don't mess with my heart. Like if you really mean it. But and that's how I thought I said it. But Brian has a different version of how I said that.
Yeah, it was more like, "Are you kidding?" And I was like, "Whoa, okay, maybe not."
Maybe not. So, honestly, I am doing cartwheels on the inside the rest of the night. And he does not talk to me to the rest of the night because he's thinking, oh, wow, what have I just stepped into? Oh, this is going to be a real great rehearsal dinner.
So, so I'm going into this thinking she, she's just putting up with me for the night. And in the meantime, she had gotten a call from uh, Liz's mother's, and she was kind of saying, "Okay, we got you." Everybody was paired up for the rehearsal dinner. And at that point, Julie thought, "Oh, she had just asked Brian to ask Julie out for as a favor."
Yeah.
He doesn't really even really want to go out. So neither one of us had great expectation for this first date.
Yeah, so I'm honestly like devastated when Mrs. O'Keefe calls, and I'm just thinking, oh, he didn't really want to ask me out. This is a favor to Liz's mom. Oh, this is a mercy date. And I just was like, the cartwheels were over by that time. It was like, oh, okay, so we go into this, and I had a funny little quirk. I, and I'm not the only one, but all of us kind of had that little list of what we wanted to mate, and I don't know why, but I wanted whoever I married to have a J name. Quirk, right? But so we get there and we sign in, and Brian signs in ahead of me, and he signs J. Period Brian Sims, and my eyes just bug like, oh, he has a J name, and I know that's quirky, but I know listeners have those kind of things. Don't tell me you don't, because you do. So anyway, that was kind of a little sign to go, okay, maybe we could be on the right track. Like maybe there is a hope about this situation. So we have the date. We don't have much recollection at all, except until we get to my parents' driveway and he drops me off.
Yeah, I was like, well, it was nice seeing you. And I didn't open her door. I didn't walk her to the door. I was a terrible date.
See ya.
A
See,
Claude, a total
see
Claude.
ya. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. And so I let myself out of the car, close the door, walk up to my parents' front porch, walk in, and go, okay, well that was not stellar. That was not. That was barely noteworthy. And so, I'm starting to doubt this
Dear diary.
dear diary. The man of my dreams is disappointing me terribly. Signed, give advice. So anyhow, um, so I at the time I was working at a local health food store, and I was on break, and I was had they had frozen yogurt, and it was the kind that it was like a Dairy Queen where it had the humps and then the curl on the top, and I'm sitting there and I'm about to enjoy this nice piece of cup of yogurt, and out of nowhere a finger appears, and it goes across the curlicue of my yogurt, and it's gone. And I turn around and look,
Hey,
exactly. There he is, licking his finger with the tip of my yogurt. And I am like, oh, what are you doing here? And in that moment, it was like, okay, he made the choice to come see me. He he's pursuing me now. It's like, oh my gosh. And so it brief, just there, hey, just thought I'd stop by work and say hi to you. And so I was so overwhelmed. Once again, the cartwheels started. I was absolutely worthless at my job. I couldn't check anyone out. They were like, get away from the cash register, just go stock vitamins. You are worthless right now. Because I was just like, oh, he came to see me. And so he began to kind of show up unexpectedly. And once again, I would be banished to just go stock the vitamins.
yeah, and that summer I'd been working with a couple that doing Bible studies and stuff, and so we had a Bible study on the Wednesday, and so I said, hey, you want to come to this Bible study? And so, and at that time we were actually going to the same church too, so we had a couple opportunities to
Yeah.
run into each other. But I think her mom accused her of it was actually boys' study that she was going to in the middle of the week.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Those
each
moms are they're perceptive on these
yeah,
things.
and after each Bible study, the time we spent out talking by the car before we went home, got longer and longer, and so things were progressing.
Yes, they were. And so that was at the first of the summer. So now we get to July 4th. July 4th. And so we had gone to the family picnic down on their family ranch. And there was kind of a certain bluff that we went up, and we were sitting and watching the fireworks. And it was just a beautiful, beautiful evening. And so later he took me home after that picnic. And that's when I got my first kiss. And that's even more fireworks were going off. Let me just say, it was like, okay, things are, wow, things are really progressing now. So, had that first kiss and continued to date for the rest of that summer.
Yeah, at some point in the summer, my plan was to eventually go to medical school. And I had this idea that it was going to be, it was going to be difficult. And that, you know, I just couldn't put any woman through that, and I guess I'm just going to be a bachelor the rest of my life. And Julie had a different thought about that.
Totally. Totally different perspective. So I remember we were sitting in his car having that conversation and him, conveying, I'll be a bachelor and I'm going to go to medical school. And I remember thinking, we are not wasting all of this good manhood on bachelorhood. No, that's not happening. You are going to marry me. And I mean, it's just like not happening. But then also, I think something else that was so intriguing to me that I found very attractive was, okay, this is a young man who's going to do something with himself. He's got a plan. And I thought that's attractive. And that I want to hitch my wagon to you because you're going somewhere and I want to be the woman who's going to go there with you. And so I remember him telling me, that this is going to be hard. And I'll tell you, in years later, we're in the thick of medical training. I would look at him and go, "You told me this was going to be hard.
I warned you.
He warned me." And I'm like, "Yes, it is so hard. I want to throw in the towel." And it's like, he told me. And, but, I was so Twitter-pated and in love. I was like, where you're going, I shall go too.
Yeah, and you did.
And I did.
I think, by 6 weeks into the summer, we knew we had a match. And my smooth move was, we were going somewhere, and I kind of put my arm around her and pulled her up next to me, and I said, that missing rib I used to have, I think that you fit it.
Yeah.
I think it fits. And I just, by that, I meant like, it was, I think that's about a good proposal as I had. Again, my dating etiquette was not great, but I think she got the message.
He was kind of raised by wolves when it
Yeah.
comes to dating etiquette.
Yeah.
Because he truly, in the end, I really never got a proposal. That was it. It was like,
It was
hey,
just understood
I
after that.
understood we're going to get married. But we ended up dating long distance for 3 years because of he was behind in school, not because of age, but he had delayed getting into college. So he still had, I had my senior year to finish up, and I had a great job at Texas Tech University. And then he went off to A&M for 2 more years. And so it ended up being a total of 3 years that we dated long distance. And we averaged seeing each other about 1 weekend a month, with the exception of holidays. And back then, no cell phones. We could only call once a week because that's all we could afford. And so we look forward to the one phone call on Sunday night, but we have a treasure trove of letters and cards that we sent. And I tell you, when one of us got mail and saw their, the name on it, it was like, oh my gosh, I got mail. And, we'd go back to either a dorm room or back to the apartment, and we would carefully open it and just savor that letter.
Read it over
And over until the phone call. And so honestly, that's a beautiful thing that came from that, was it forced us to record our romance. It's totally recorded. And so someday, it would take a while to go back through all of them. And maybe someday some of our kids will read them and go, wow, look what our parents went through. And so, but I really feel, Dawn, that 3-year period was so critical to prepare us for what we were heading into, because leading up to our marriage, Brian was finishing up college. So you want to finish up there?
So I finished my last year at Texas A&M, but I didn't have a ring. And we were getting married like a month after I graduated. So fortunately, my sister-in-law's cousin was a jeweler, in Dallas, and he needed a house to be painted, and we made a deal. And so on my way home, I stopped in Dallas for a week or so, and I painted a house and got a ring. And so we were kind of poor back then.
Yes, poor. And so his original
Well,
plan,
you're just college students. Yes,
Yeah,
of course
yes,
you're.
I mean,
exactly.
yes, which was typical. And so we had kind of been officially whatever engaged for over a year. So no ring, no ring. And so I'm like, no, 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 this guy really is going to marry me. He's not a fraud. I mean,
So
like
you were officially ribbed,
Yeah, that's right.
right?
She was
Just
ribbed.
yeah, I
kind
was
of
ribbed.
put there.
Yeah,
It was
so
hard to show.
Okay.
hard to show. But
So
and in the meantime, I am working in food service at Texas Tech, and I'm in a men's dorm. I have 500 guys about Brian's age for breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day. None of them are the right guy. My man is 500 miles away. So 500 guys, nope, 500 miles away. And I keep telling them, no, no, really, this guy he's going to marry me. Trust me. And they're thinking, oh, poor dear.
Bless her
She's,
heart.
bless her heart, delusional. So anyhow, um, so it's 2 weeks before he brings home the ring, and I finally get to wear it. His original plan was to shock me at the wedding and slip it on my hand.
Not shock. It was more surprise.
Okay,
It would be a surprise
surprise,
for you.
surprise. And I told him flat out, I said, I am so glad you did not do that. I would have punched you right at the altar. Like, what the heck?
This isn't what I wanted.
It was the ring I wanted, but it was just like, don't do that to me. So anyhow, I got to wear it, and I remember his mother wasn't very happy. Like, it's a wedding band. You shouldn't be wearing that before your wedding. I'm thinking, lady, do you know what I have gone through? I am wearing the ring. I took it off for the ceremony so he could put it back on. But so there we were, getting married. He had graduated college the prior week. Next weekend we get married, and then 3 weeks later, off we go to start medical school, and that would take 10 more years of training to get us through that. And so we had to be prepared to be apart. And so that was honestly God's provision and kindness to us to prepare us to be apart from each other and to be able to handle it. And so that was the purpose.
Yeah.
That helped us a lot. But the wedding was beautiful, honestly, went off without a hitch.
Yeah.
And then I had a very generous uncle who offered 2 weeks at his condo at Kitty Hawk, North Carolina. And so we had a 2 week honeymoon. And there again, I think God knew we needed two whole weeks. One, we were finally in the same town. And I think that was just such a sweet gift from God to give us that much time to acclimate. But honestly, the first 6 months of our marriage, we would look at each other and pinch ourselves and go, we're in the same town. I don't have to cry in a driveway. I don't have to cry at an airport. Like, this is amazing.
Yeah. That was
you don't have to run to the mailbox and see what he has to
Yes,
say.
yes. The mail diminished then, but so that was just a really, really sweet time. But the and medical school is such a time where everyone's in the same boat. We were all poor. All of our husbands were studying and so it was just a continuation. It was like grad school, everybody being in grad school. But it was an intense time. And so, Brian, you want to share a little bit about what that was like for you?
Well, let me start really
Yeah, go
quickly
ahead.
here and do an invitation because you did have a wedding and we do want to see the photos from the wedding.
Okay.
So I want
For
to
sure.
I want to invite everyone to go to our website, Unexpected Love Stories, and see Brian and Julie's wedding photos, as well as so many more photos from the summer of falling in love and uh, the distance apart and all the things that happened afterwards. Just click the website link in the show notes. You're going to find so much to enjoy on their episode page.
Have you lived an unforgettable love story? We want to hear it. In Unexpected Love Stories, we're collecting real stories of love that came out of nowhere or changed everything. Whether it started with a glance, a prayer, or a second chance, your story matters, and it could inspire the world. Visit unexpectedlovestories.com and share your love story today, because the world needs more stories like yours.
Okay, so you're in your early married life, and it's a little rough with medical school. So go ahead and share with us about that.
Yeah, the first couple of years of medical school is mainly just classwork, and but it's a lot of classwork. So there's a lot of studying, and I was trying to be a good husband and putting my all into preparing for my future career. But then when you start to get into the clinical rotations, the last couple of years of medical school, and certainly into your residency. So I did a residency in Lubbock as well. That's where I went to medical school. I was at Texas Tech, and your time is not your own.
Mm-mm.
You show up when you were supposed to. And a number of years ago, they for residencies they put an 80-hour per week limit on residency. I when I was in a resident, that was before that limit. So we would literally, if you take the hours that you spent on call 2 to 3 times a week, we worked over 100 hours a week, and so I was a little tired when I got home. Maybe I wasn't real attentive.
That's an understatement.
Yeah, probably the yeah.
I'm laughing now. I wasn't laughing then.
Yeah.
He would literally, I remember his head hitting our dining room, hitting our family dinner table out of sheer exhaustion. I mean, he was just toast. But that was how everybody was.
Yeah.
It wasn't just him, but it was it was taking a toll. Once again, I'm finding myself lonely. I'm separated from him and apart. And I remember at one point he just kind of looked me at the face and he said, "Julie," he said, it's it's
It's not me against you. It's us against them.
it's us against them."
You know.
And
Yeah.
I just needed to hear that truth of, hey, this is not a fight between you and I. We have to stay together to survive this. They owned him. They owned his time. There was no time that he could say, well, my wife would really like me to stay home tonight. I'm calling in. It's like, no, that was unheard of, impossible. And so that's just how it was. And you just had to live through it. And so we got through that, and then we decided to move back home and start his medical practice. And it was years later that Brian explained to me just how, honestly, how frightening that was for him. So do you want to tell a little bit about, what you were feeling at that
Yeah.
time?
As a resident, you're doing all kinds of surgery, but you always know that there's your attending, in other words, your staff person that was ultimately responsible for anything that might not go well. And but when you're in private practice, it's you. It's all on you. You're the end of the malpractice string of things if something doesn't go well. And so um, that was really I don't know why. I mean, I was really stressed out for the first probably 2 to 3 years starting my practice. And I think a lot of physicians feel that as well, is that you're just trying to figure out your own place and figuring out that you're actually competent to do the job that you're doing. And um, so that, and then, you're all of a sudden now you're a business owner.
Hmm.
And they don't teach you anything about business in medical school. And unfortunately, I had pursued just scientific fields in college, and so that's another stress now, is that you're managing a business that you know uh, brings in a fair amount of money, and so how do you navigate that? And so, I think the thing about our story is that it was 25 years into our marriage before God humbled me to, realize, reveal to me how poorly I had provided emotionally for my wife, financially, physically, for our kids and everything. I was doing a great job. But just from an emotional standpoint, I didn't understand emotional connection at all. And I'm afraid most men really don't get that. And so we went through a very difficult time where we had to come to grips with that. And, man, praise God that He pursued us and, brought us through that. And, our relationship now is just, we so enjoy each other. And I bring that up to give people hope because I'm sure there's people that listen to this story maybe just because their own story is not great and they're looking for some happy. And I think that's the thing is that there is hope. We were one night away from a divorce, and we had 6 kids by that time. And yet God stepped in. The scales fell off my eyes to my part of it, which gave her hope, and so we were able to move ahead. And from that point, God has just revealed Himself so much to us that now we love, building into other couples, young couples who are in that hard time, and we're like, yeah, we've kind of been through some of that, and we understand.
And which takes me back to our birth. That birth was a sign, a
Yeah.
wonder, and a miracle. Like that doesn't happen every day. And God would remind me, no, Julie, I put you together. Stay the course. Stay in the game. And He truly would speak to me just so clearly. Like He was waking me up night after night, having conversations with me and pursuing me and saying, no, go back to the word. What does the word say? Honor your husband, love your husband, submit to your husband. And, and just that was when God became extremely real, extremely real. And one morning, Brian was preparing to go on a medical mission to Africa with Mercy ships. And the Lord spoke to me and said, if you'll go with him, I'll heal your marriage. And I thought, well, okay. At that moment, I was like, okay. And so I go in, he's getting ready for church, and I told him, this is what I told him. I said, the Lord told me I was supposed to go to Africa with you. I said nothing about the healing marriage part, kept that to myself. And he looked at me and he said, well, you have 2 weeks to get your application and your immunization. And I said, okay. And I mean, sure enough, God made it happen. And in 2 weeks, we were on our way to Africa. And the short story of that is we were to be there for 2 weeks. And after 2 weeks of serving there, I mean, nothing had shifted, nothing had changed. And there again, God's still waking me up in the middle of the night. Get up, I want to talk to you. And so I told him, I said, nothing has changed. Well, like the next day, a volcano erupts in Iceland, and every flight across Europe is canceled. Nobody can travel because of the volcanic ash. So even though it erupts in Iceland, we can't leave Africa. And we end up staying a whole another week. We had to call the babysitter and go, hey, I hope you can keep the 6 kids. We can't get home. Have mercy on us. So it ended up at the end of the week that we took a chance and crossed over from Togo into Ghana. I mean, a crazy experience to get to Accra, the airport there. And we honestly thought we were going to lose our lives. It was such a sketchy deal. But
Yeah.
it was sketchy. but that was the moment when God forced us to work together. It's like, if we're going to get back home to our family and children, we have to pull together. We have to be a team to get ourselves back. And so we did make it to the airport, got on that plane, and got home. And that's what it took to get our attention to go, I am serious about you two staying the course. Work as a team, not against each other.
So hope
So
for any situation.
that life and death situation kind of took the blinders off and was like, wait, hold on, we
It was
need
a
to,
marker.
and then so how after that did you keep that going?
I think that one of the things that we began to be much more intentional. Brian made it a priority that we would have a regular date lunch or date night, and we still do it. We still do it, and so it's like, no, I knew that I could handle the week if I was going to for sure get a date lunch or date night with him. It's like I could live for that. But it was promised to me, and he upheld that. And so I think that that was one thing. And another thing that we've done of recent is we have a pair of talking chairs. And so our chairs are comfortable, they swivel. And so whenever we have anything that we need to hash out or talk about or encourage each other, just hear each other's day, it's like, hey, let's go to the talking chairs. And so that's a place of refuge for us to be able to stay connected. And so, and to do it in a way that's not aggressive. You're sitting, you're relaxed. So even when we've discussed difficult things, we are doing it in a relaxed, calm manner to where we can just maturely say, hey, I kind of feel like I could use a little more time this week. I know you've been busy, but sure need that date night. And so we do love our talking chairs. That's something that we're pro for the talking chairs.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love that. And then several, it seems like God just kept opening doors for you after that to partner together for things.
Yes. So you want to talk?
But the prophetic team.
Yes. So we'll talk about the prophetic team.
Yeah, Julie, we had
Okay.
when we were at the point of breaking with our marriage, Julie said we need to go to a different church. And there's a church in our town that was kind of known for marriage ministry and stuff. We thought, well, we need that. And it was a charismatic church, which neither one of us had grown up in. And so that was out of my comfort zone. But by that point, the God had me in a headlock, and I was just like, okay, wherever. that's where
Yes,
we need to
Lord.
go.
Yes, Lord.
Yeah, yes, Lord. Um, and so we started going there. And one of the things that Julie got involved in pretty soon after we started going there was a prophetic team. And I was, I was skeptical at best. It's like, okay, you're doing what? You're prophesying to people, and okay. Um, and so, but it was like God was speaking to me and saying, you need to do this with her. You don't let her get out ahead of you in an area, and let that be a division between you. And so I went to the classes that you needed to go to start going to the real classes. They had kind of a seminar, where you learn about it. And I remember being in that seminar and very quickly understanding that I'd been hearing God all my life. I remember, the man that was teaching us, he said, God is a communicating God. He is communicating to us all the time. It's a matter of us understanding and learning how to hear him. And it was funny because an experience I would have often would be, I'm in the shower, it's the day of surgery, I have maybe a particularly hard case, and so I'm going through it while I'm showering and stuff. And the shower's the best place for thoughts. And it was like God would give me an idea of like, well, how, approach it this way, or maybe you can fix it in this way. And it was like, oh, that's not in the textbooks. And I hadn't thought about that.
Mhm.
And so I always knew that was from God, but for some reason I never equated that with hearing God until I was in that seminar. And so at that point I was intrigued. And so I started becoming involved. Um, and that was probably one of the best things for our marriage, because now we both understood that, yeah, we hear God and we can actually hear God for other people. And that's what prophetic ministry, that's all it is just being a conduit for God to speak to people and speak into their life. And that tool has opened up so many opportunities for us.
Yeah, I think that
Yeah.
we tell other couples that this took our marriage to a whole nother level,
Yeah.
because we are now so in sync spiritually. Like, we can hear for each other. We can hear for other people. I mean, God has been talking to both of us our whole lives. I mean, it was honestly, I've heard him since I was a little girl. He would just say, give a word of instruction. I mean, like that day hey, go to Africa with your husband. I heard it clear as a bell. So now it has just bonded us together to be able to serve together in our church, and we can be out and about, and the Lord he'll give us a word of encouragement for someone, and we'll speak it to a waitress or a busboy or someone, honestly, total strangers, and they will look at you and go, "Oh my gosh, that's exactly what I'm going through. How did you
How did you
know
know?
that?" And you're like, "Well, I
We didn't.
didn't.
We didn't.
We
But
didn't,
he does.
but he does, and he
Yeah.
cares about you. He loves you, and he cares about you, and he just wanted to communicate to you that he's very aware of what you're going through. And so these people receive a touch from God. Many times they'll start to cry. They'll hug you. Can I hug you? And by all means, we take all the hugs. There again, it's just another way of God touching them by hugging them. And so that has been just a very powerful way that Brian and I have been able to truly come together, as one, as husband and wife, and work as a very powerful. I always think of two oxen pulling, a team of oxen pull and can do much work when they work together than when they're fighting with each other and trying to go in opposite directions.
Yeah.
And so, I think the beauty of our story, um, as we're wrapping up, is, we feel like now we pull as a very powerful team, and that we get to partner with God in ways that we never had done before, never knew existed. And it's just been such a beautiful journey for us. So we feel like the best is yet to come. Like,
Yeah.
we're just getting started.
It's just getting better and better and better.
Yes, yes. And I hope that people can have hope for their marriage, that, it is. Remind yourself, it's not me against you, it's us against them, or whatever it is that's coming
Mhm.
against you. That the power is in staying together and staying in sync with God.
Yeah. Well, and you share things like this on your podcast?
Yes.
We do. We have relation EQ, and like you, we're very relational. Like, we want to hear people's real life stories. Our point in having that podcast is we know a lot of people who carry life's wisdom. Like, we have gained wisdom. And so have many of our friends and people that we interview. And so we want them to tell their story and tell what worked. But then if something didn't work, it's like, maybe come around and tell, I would have done it this way. In hindsight, I probably would have done it this way, because there again, it's just imparting God's wisdom to people, in a format to where it's real life stories, real life situations that other people are dealing with. One of our episodes is a couple that have a severely handicapped young man, and he's special needs, and just their story of how do they live life with their son McCoy, who's in a wheelchair and blind and 27. And how many people are out there dealing with a special needs person in their home, and they need hope about that
Yeah.
situation. And so those are,
Yeah.
I mean, we have a variety of conversations with people. And so please go to Relation EQ and check us out.
The amount of wisdom that you have acquired. Would you mind sharing a final word with our listeners? I think that there's so many people who think that God's busy doing all these other things, and that that finding a spouse is not, top on his priority list for you. So would you just share a word of wisdom about how the Father does want to be a part of that in our lives?
Yeah, I think as we became parents, that was probably one of the best revelations to me of God's heart for us, is just seeing those feelings and those emotions that were welling up inside of us as we were having children and wanting the best for them. And and so if I take that mindset of that's God's mindset towards me, then there's nothing that concerns my child that I am not wanting to be there and be involved in and help them with. And certainly a spouse, we take that very seriously in our family.
We do.
Who our children marry is really important. And so our third child is going to be coming up on their wedding here in the next year. And, we are so thrilled with the person that they've picked. And, and our other two married children, the same thing. We say, you guys have set the bar high for our family.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we take a really big interest in that. And our Heavenly Father is even more so interested. So, yeah, no, I agree with you. He has a keen interest in who you choose as a mate, because it impacts your life so incredibly. Just like for us, it took us a while to get to the point where we felt like, okay, like Julie said, we were pulling together. But now it's like, man. But those 25 years in the wilderness was building experience and lessons that we could speak from.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's perfect. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing your beautiful story today. It was so much fun. Thanks.
Yeah.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. We lived it.
But we enjoyed telling the
Oh,
story too.
Yeah, it's fun to tell
oh,
that.
good.
Yeah.
Good. And friends, remember, God started writing our stories long before we could see it. We just need to trust Him and let Him be the loving author that He is. And don't forget to go to our website, unexpectedlovestories.com, to learn more about Brian and Julie and all the things they're doing. You can view their love story pictures. You can see all the ways that you can interact with them and their businesses. The link to their episode page is just in those show notes, just down below. And are you following us on social media yet? Look for Unexpected Love Stories Podcast. That's Unexpected Love Stories Podcast on Instagram, on Facebook, and on TikTok. Besides giving you like sneak peeks into the episodes that are coming up, we also post fun man on the street interviews where we ask people funny stories, tell us their stories about falling in love or what their ideas are of a great date, things like that. We show photos and reels regularly. It's a great way to stay in touch with us. Well, I hope that your heart feels lighter and full of hope after the story. So, sometimes the best love stories are the ones that we never saw coming. So keep your heart open, because love is waiting for you. We'll see you next time. Bye.